Senator Ron Johnson, who sits on the Senate Budget Committee. Senator, thanks so much for joining us again here on the program.
Morning, Betty.
So, are you irritated by Senator Ted Cruz and what he's doing?
Betty, I appreciate any effort that highlights how harmful Obamacare is going to be to our health care system, to our economy, to just Americans' personal freedom, and to our federal budget. So, listen, I appreciate the unions coming out demanding change, almost recommending that it be repealed. So I think this is what we have to do: is we've got to raise the profile of how harmful Obamacare is going to be. So I appreciate any efforts that does exactly that.
Critics, though, say, and even some within your own party, Senator, that the way Senator Ted Cruz is doing this, the way the Tea Partiers are doing this, is they're ruining the image of the Republican Party, of the GOP, and that, as I mentioned, could hurt the chances for Republicans in 2014.
Well, certainly I'm always looking for any strategy that unifies the party in terms of, what we can do to eventually lead to full repeal, but, limit the damage of Obamacare until we reach that point. So I'm a little concerned about how divisive this has been. We really ought to be focusing our attention on how harmful Obamacare is, but the political pressure ought to be brought to bear on Democrats who voted for this bill and who refuse to defund it, who refuse to limit the damage, who actually are supportive of Congress and members of their staff getting special treatment under the law. I mean, we should be focusing our attention on those individuals rather than Republicans, because let's face it, Republicans are absolutely unified in wanting to repeal Obamacare, defund it, limit its damage. So we really need to focus our attention on those individuals who actually support the law and try and erode their support so we can eventually repeal it.
Well, a member of your own party, Senator John McCain, though, says, look at the numbers. Look at the data. It is political suicide, quoting Senator McCain, to try to leverage defunding Obamacare with the government shutdown.
Well, Betty, coming from business, I've done a lot of strategic planning in my time. And the first thing is you always have to start with recognizing reality. And unfortunately for Republicans and conservatives, President Obama got reelected. Harry Reid is in control of the Senate, total control. So you have to kind of factor that into your strategy. So,
right.
I don't believe this defund effort will work at this point in time. But what we need to do is we need to raise that profile of how harmful Obamacare is going to be. This is certainly, one effort that's raised that profile. So certainly appreciate that fact. But what we really need to do is we need to be smart.
Has it raised it in a productive way? When you just said a few moments ago that you would rather see a more unified, more unification on this issue versus divisiveness.
Well, that's my concern, which is the reason I never signed the letters. I wanted to make sure that if there was a really good idea, really unifying strategy that actually would put pressure on those Democrats. One thing we could do, Betty, is we could pass a continuing resolution at Budget Control Act caps, and the only thing we attach to it is a rejection of that OPM ruling that gives members of Congress and their staff a special treatment under Obamacare. I think if we get that sent over from the House into the Senate, I think they'd put an awful lot of pressure on Democrats to pass that continuing resolution, but then it would also put a lot of pressure on them to maybe work with us for a one-year delay. Let's face it, President Obama has acknowledged that this is a train wreck. He's delayed a lot of parts of Obamacare. We really ought to delay the entire thing. I guess give the bureaucracy another year. They've had 3.5 years to bring this thing up to prime time. It's not. But also give Republicans then a year to continue to point out to the American public, get that supermajority support to repeal Obamacare, run 2014 as a mandated election to do so.
But don't, and this is what I hear sometimes coming out from Washington, is there's a plan really by Republicans to essentially try to delay Obamacare until the president leaves office in 2016.
At this point, I feel confident.
Well, again, the reality situation is President Obama is in office. I don't think he's going to sign a bill that repeals or defunds his signature piece of legislation. So I think our role as Republicans, and I think the American people expect this, is we should limit the damage of Obamacare until that point in time. From my standpoint, anything we can do to prevent Obamacare from taking firm and permanent root would be a good thing, because, Betty, I truly believe this is going to do great harm to the health care system. This is going to harm our budget, our economy. It's going to harm individuals. So, I think as Americans actually see what this thing looks like as it gets implemented, they will. I think it's a supermajority of Americans will eventually want this bill repealed.
Senator, just on a final note before I let you go, though, bottom line, what is your feeling of a government shutdown? Is it going to happen?
I don't think so. There's not enough support to take this to the edge. I don't want to play brinkmanship. I think most Republicans don't want to play brinkmanship. I don't care who's in office. We want the economy to succeed. And, trying to shut down the government or even threatening it, puts even greater uncertainty in the American economy. So, listen, this September 30th date isn't a surprise. We should have been doing this back in June, in July, in August. But, I'm new here. It's impossible to convey the dysfunction of Washington, which I want Americans to really factor that in as they elect officials dedicated to growing this dysfunctional place.
Yeah.
Not exactly the thing to do. And that, of course, Obamacare grows the federal government, which is one of the reasons I certainly hope Americans start demanding that we repeal it.
All right, Senator, thank you for joining us. Always appreciate you
Have a great day.
on our program. Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin with us here.